Hello, everyone. My name is Rob. I'm the Executive Director for the Glen Ellen Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to our very first segment of Chamber Chat. Chamber Chat is just a little short video interview that I like to do with the members of the Chamber. That way the Chamber members and the public can get to know who our members are and what they do. And today, my first guest is Dr. Shantelle. Welcome, Dr. Shantelle. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you for being the first guest. Hopefully we can get through this okay without too many mistakes and don't have to throw too much stuff on the editing floor.
We'll try.
So if you want to, explain real quick who you are and what you do.
Sure. My name is Dr. Shantelle Whitehead. I'm the owner of Dr. Shantelle and Associates. We are a group practice, mental health practice. We have 4 locations, one in Naperville, Clarendon Hills, Glen Ellen, which is where we're at right now, and Bolingbrook. And we serve all ages, almost all diagnoses. And I have a great group of there's about 20 of us.
Wow, that's awesome. So we know what your profession is.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about your background, non-professional wise, so people can kind of get to know who Dr. Shantelle is.
Sure. Well, I have an interesting background. Prior to becoming a psychologist, I was an actress and a dancer and a singer. I worked in New York City. I grew up performing, worked in New York City, did musical theater there, and I still dance to this day. I'm actually on a competitive tap team, and so I really enjoy the performing parts of things. But I ended up kind of falling out of love with musical theater. Well, really not out of love with musical theater, out of love with show business. The show business part of what New York City implied that was required for me to kind of advance in terms of my career was one that just didn't really fit with my morals, didn't fit with what I wanted to do, and felt very selfish. I had to kind of be my own product and not really focus on other people. And I realized that that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people. So I really just over a summer, I kind of had been thinking about it and applied to grad school and moved from New York City to Chicago. Went to school, started grad school. My agent said, "You will be back." He said, "You'll be back in a year, no problem." And it's been like almost 20 years now. So.
Well, I know you take your dancing very serious because last time I saw you're actually wearing a boot.
Yes.
So there are injuries in dancing, obviously.
There are.
Yeah, so no boot today, so it seems like you're okay.
No boot today. I had a bone bruise from tapping just basically too hard. So too aggressively, practicing too much. It still hurts a bit, but I'm a dancer. You just kind of go with it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you recovered.
Thank you.
Yes, that's good. And you talked a little bit about, why you wanted to get into the practice that you do now.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of tell us what's your specialties? What do you are you by yourself? Do you have other clinicians in here with you?
So I have, there's actually 19 clinicians.
Oh, wow.
So 19 clinicians, not just in the Glen Ellen office. We're spread throughout the 4 offices.
Okay.
But there's 19 of us. And so we have a multitude of specialties, some of which include, so we do, of course, the regular individual, family, group, couples therapy. I mean, that's just kind of the things that people normally do. But then we also do sports psychology, which is a specialty. We do something called EMDR, which stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which is the #1 trauma treatment right now recommended by the National Institute of Mental Health. So it really works well with trauma. We do psychological testing, so psychoeducational testing, which is great because there's 3 of us who do that, and it's sometimes really hard to find people who can do that. So we do that. We do educational advocacy. We do parental consultation, which is basically for parents who kind of need some help in trying to figure out what steps next to take with their kids. We even do college planning, like trying to help kids like get ready to apply for college and like how they can do that. I think I might have covered everything.
Yeah,
so.
That sounds like a lot. That's good. So with this many clinicians that you have and the specialties that you provide, there's other offices obviously in the
Mhm.
areas that you live in and our members live in. So what sets your practice aside from other practices?
I think, I mean, to say that I have the best staff in the world is, I think, true, but I guess everyone might say that. But I truly think that my practice is set apart, number one, from the amount of kind of specialties that we have. We truly can serve all ages. I mean, it can be from a little kid all the way up to geriatric. We even accept Medicare, so we can accept all ages. Nearly all diagnoses, I mean, there's only a few exclusionary ones where we would need specialty training that we don't have, but nearly all diagnoses. And we take pride in something that I just say that has to be part of it is, even if people have insurances, let's say that we don't accept, which we accept all major insurances, and even Medicare, but like we don't accept Medicaid. But if someone were to come in and say, I need help, but I don't have, the ability to pay, everyone has to take a pro bono, and we take sliding scale. So it's one of those things that if you walk in the door, we are going to help you. And I think that is something that not all practices can say.
Hmm. That's great. You're really not going to turn anybody away. Then you'll
Absolutely.
find one way or another to work with them.
We will find a way.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Nice. I got to ask. Thank God, pandemic is over. COVID will always be with us, but the pandemic is over. 2020. Did you see an uptick, especially like in kids, since they're home, they're behind a mask, they're doing their homework in bed? My kids were guilty of that. We had to, kick them out of the bed, sit them at the kitchen table, to get their homework done. Did you see any effect on adolescents, children, once a pandemic hit?
I honestly saw an effect on everyone, not just children and
Mm,
adolescents, but adults too. The pandemic was something that, it was so unexpected by most that it was interesting. My clients who already had anxiety disorders actually handled it better than people who had never experienced anything, because the anxiety disordered ones had the skills already, and everyone else just didn't know what to do because it was so scary. And so what I found was, the level of anxiety overall, and it still is the level of anxiety overall within the population, is higher than it's ever been. It's what we see the most of are anxiety disorders. And then we add to it the kind of cutoff from social contact, the cutoff from social support systems. Now that particularly hurt the adolescents and the
yeah.
kids, particularly adolescents. Teenagers are developmentally meant to cling to their peers. That is where they get their social support. That is developmentally appropriate. And so to be cut off from them was extremely detrimental to them, to their mental health, to just kind of how they handle things. And then, so during the pandemic, what we found was, yes, there was an uptick in mental health issues. There was a big change because prior to the pandemic, we didn't really use telehealth that much. I
Yeah.
mean, we weren't even allowed to use it that much. And so it was a complete shift because then everything was telehealth. So
Mm-hmm.
that was really interesting, trying to find creative ways to relate to these, especially little kids, trying to find ways. Like I found there are games like Battleship. If one kid has Battleship and I have Battleship, we can actually play, because you can play even across
Yeah.
the cameras,
Yeah.
or like Pictionary or things like that.
Right.
So, we had to find really creative ways to play. And so telehealth was something new. And then what I have found too is the reintegration back into life has been extremely difficult. People have really struggled with overstimulation. They went from being at home in a safe place, not really leaving their home, back into just the craziness of life,
Mm-hmm.
with all of the stimulation, all the people and everything. And I've had people who have trouble going back to work because they just say there's too much going on and they get really
Yeah.
anxious. I've had kids who feel like the pressures of school just feel much more.
Well, they gotta make conversation now.
They have to make
You
conversation.
know, I talk to parents and they're like, "Oh yeah, my kid, he has grunts or groans or one word answers." So yeah, getting back into, you know, back communicating with your peers and, you know, with the public. I see that being an issue now. I don't know if it was like that
Absolutely.
before, but yeah, now
No,
it
the
seems like,
social anxiety has gone through the roof.
yeah, yeah,
Just because they didn't get used to it. You know, they got out of practice
right.
with it.
I know. I was
And
anxious to do this. All right.
I was a little bit too. So there we go.
All right, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Can you give me an example of a successful intervention? Is that the correct term? Intervention?
Intervention?
Or
Sure. Gosh, there are.
I'm sure you have many.
Yeah, I
What's one
mean,
that
there are
sticks in
some
your head?
great. There's some great cases.
And HIPAA, no names, no birth dates.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. I'm trying to think of one that's, you know, kind of not too complex, but that would be a good one. So I have one client who was very, very had a lot of problems with anxiety. And this was prior to the pandemic, but then during the pandemic, it's almost like she got very comfortable in her space. And so the transition back into the pandemic was very difficult. A lot of anxiety. She's on the higher functioning autism scale.
Oh, wow.
And so something that we had to do a lot of was a lot of role plays of like, how do we approach teachers? What can we say? How can we say it? We did a lot of learning how to regulate her own anxiety. So a lot of breathing techniques and things with teenagers is they don't want anyone else to know that they're doing anything because they don't want to stick out. So I do a lot of techniques where it's you can't really tell, where they're doing certain breathing techniques that like you just can't tell that they're doing them. So breathing techniques, or like, you know, kind of tracing their hand on their leg, doing breathing techniques for kids can't tell that.
Yeah.
I did a lot of with her. We did a lot of I work with the school of like, you know, I did a lot of what's called 504 plans, which is plans with the schools so that she could have certain accommodations. And so it really, you know, it helped a lot. And then we worked on like how she could communicate with her teachers about some of the struggles she was having. And so again, role plays and anxiety management techniques, and then just helping her get the accommodations that she needs. And happy to say she's having an amazing senior year. She applied to colleges and she's going to be going to a college in the fall.
That's awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
All right, lastly, I want to bring up the sports. My son, very good at sports. He's only a freshman. He takes the losses very personable. He does use that loss, you know, to try and get better. But I can see it really hurts him for a couple hours. He's done. You can't talk to him. I don't know if that's just his competitiveness, but I'd love to hear a little bit about what you guys do for athletes. I know Glen Bard schools, their athletes are very important, the athletic department. So I'd love to hear a little bit about what you guys do with the athletes.
Absolutely. So I got my post-baccalaureate sports psych degree, probably 10 years ago now, but I was lucky also to hire on to other sports psychs. So there's 3 of us, which is really rare to have in a practice. And what we do is, so, you know, we love to come in and work with teams, but whether it's an individual or a team, we have an assessment tool that we use that really looks at the mental skills of the athletes and finds out whether they are strong in those or weak in those. And it's just like this assessment that goes through, and there's like 9 mental skills that we look at, you know, everything from, you know, confidence to motivation to pre-performance anxiety to Do they have the routines? So many different things that they look for.
Yeah.
And so we get kind of this profile of like, okay, what are they strong in? What are they weak in? If we do it with the team, it's great because then we can find out what is the team strong in, what are they weak in.
Sure.
So for teams, we do workshops, and we have workshop packages. We actually have, I think it's 12 workshops that we can do, 10 or 12 workshops. It's a package deal that we do with teams if needed, or we can just do 5 or, kind of however many they need. But with individuals, what we do is, so if I were to work with your son, I would probably take a really long history, of course. I would give him this assessment because it can be done for teenagers too.
Mm-hmm.
Find out kind of what he's strong in, what he's weak in, and then we would work on developing the skills that are weak. So for him, if he has a lot of trouble with kind of handling mistakes or bouncing back from mistakes, a lot of kids have that. Like if they're in a game and let's say your son, I don't what position is he
football, like if you drop a pass or something like
Okay.
that, or fumble the ball. Or something.
Yes, fumbles the ball, drops a pass. Some football players don't recover very well from that. They just get in their heads, and then the rest of the game they have trouble, kind of getting past it. And that's in every sport. I work with softball players, swimmers, football players, ice skaters, gymnasts. I mean, you name it. I work with it. I typically work now at the higher level, like Olympians, pro athletes, things like that. But we still work with high school athletes also.
Okay.
And every level needs help. And so what we do is I help them get skills. Like, so for him, I would have him develop a routine or a something that he did in order to shake it off. So like, for example, for some football, like I worked with a football player from U of I for a long time, and he was a wide receiver. And if he dropped a pass, he would literally, like, he had this kind of things he did. He like hit his pads, hit his head, like hit his helmet. I don't know why they do that, but they do. Hit his helmet, and then he would say like a mantra. It was like a phrase he said, and it was I don't remember what it was personally, but it was something like, like it's gone, focus in, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I would have him use that as just every time, and that would be something he uses in practice. It would be something that he uses in games, and it would be his reset, basically.
Yeah.
And so that would get him reset and focused back in. Another thing we do is cue words. So we have like cue words to get them refocused. So, for a wide receiver, it was like, eye on the ball, stick it with your hands or whatever, and just like a few of phrases that they would say in their head as they were running for the ball, as they were doing the plays.
Okay.
So just things to really quiet their mind and get them focused in.
Yeah, I'll have to get your card on the way out then.
Absolutely. I would love to help.
Wrap things up. Do you do consultations?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we do consultations for all kinds of things. So as we said, we have the parental consultations, of course, that parents can come in and we can consult on what's going on with their kids.
Okay.
But if businesses need consultations, we work with businesses sometimes. If they're having some staffing things going on, we look at dynamics there. We do consultations. I mean, anyone can come in for their first session if they want to kind of therapist shop. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
That's okay, because it's about the fit.
Yeah, you got to click.
You got to click.
Yeah.
But in one way, another thing that sets us apart, I think, is when people call into the intake line. So we have an intake line, and when they call in, the intake woman who does everything for me, and she's wonderful, she takes all the information and just like kind of the basics, like who are you, how old are you, what are you coming in for, what office do you want, are you using insurance? That's basically the 5 questions. And then she sends that information to me, and I look at all of my clinicians if they name an office, then I'll look in that office, all of the clinicians, hear what the issue is, and think who is the best fit. Who is the best fit for who this person sounds like.
Oh, that's good.
And if I have extra questions, I will call that person and I will say, hey, can I ask you this or this or this? And then I try to match them with the best fit. And I would say 99% of the time I'm pretty spot on. And so it works out.
Good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, would you like to do a little shameless plug, phone number, website,
Sure.
all that good stuff before we wrap things up?
Absolutely, completely shameless. Our website is www.drshantelleandassociates.com. Now, Dr. Shantelle, spelled a little strange because my dad got a little creative. It's DRSHANTELLEANDASSOCIA. Oh no, associates. You
Wait, blame
know,
your dad.
blame my dad. Yes, associates. You know what it is. So it's drchantelleandassociates.com. Or actually, you can even just use drshantelle.com. That actually works too. So maybe
Okay.
I'll just say that www.drshantelle.com.
All right.
That'll get you to us. So that's the website. And on that website, you will find the information I'm about to give you, which is the intake number. And there's even a message section where you can contact, and it will come straight to my email. So if you have a specific question just for me, just send me a message through there. It comes straight to my email.
Can it be a dancing question, or it has
It
strictly
can be whatever question they want.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Well,
yeah, and so the number is 312-924-1884. So that is the intake number.
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr.
Absolutely.
Shantelle. I think it went beautifully today. And, thank you, Chamber members, for watching the video. If you like it, please share. Follow our YouTube page. It's Glen Ellyn Chamber of Commerce. Sorry, still getting used to this. But yeah, thank you for watching, and keep an eye out for the next Chamber Chat.